Thought I'd do a video in a different format today. There's been so many new releases, and with me being new to having a YouTube channel and video editing and things like that, I just don't have the time to do individual reviews before the next thing comes out. So I thought I'd do like a recent pickups grab bag video where I can go over all these movies in one go and give my quick thoughts on each. We'll kick things off with the 4K of Sunset Boulevard from Paramount. Funny story, I actually discovered this movie a couple years ago when I asked Reddit what movies fit this criteria. I wanted something about an aging starlet past her prime being a recluse in her mansion while thinking about the good old days. Now, I'd never heard of this movie before, and I don't know why I was in the mood for something that specific, but everyone, of course, suggested Sunset Boulevard, and now that I've seen it and it's become one of my favorite noirs, it's easy to see why. Definitely checked that very specific box for me, and it's just a great movie in general. It looks amazing in 4K, lots of detail and natural grain, and the Dolby Vision plays well with the moody black and white cinematography. Paramount has a pretty good track record with their 4K releases, I feel. I think of stuff like their box sets for Indiana Jones, Mission Impossible, Transformers. I'm usually pretty pleased with their picture quality, and Sunset Boulevard is no exception. Next, we have Salute of the Jugger from Umbrella. Released in the US as The Blood of Heroes, I discovered this years ago when I was getting into obscure post-apocalyptic movies and saw this one mentioned. I love Rutger Hauer, and this is unusual as it's not just a Mad Max ripoff about people fighting for resources. The entire post-apocalyptic society seems to revolve around the titular blood sport. Very unique. This movie spent most of its life stuck on home video without proper restorations or releases. Umbrella have done a great job with the picture quality on this one. The last time I saw it may have been on some dodgy DVD rip or something, so seeing it here was like watching it again for the first time. Detail is very high, especially in outdoor landscape shots where you can really make out all the rocks and pebbles strewn about. You also really notice the makeup, like all the scars and disfigurement on people's faces, and that holds up pretty well despite what must have been a modest budget. The look of the movie is desolate and desaturated. This movie doesn't have a vibrant color palette, but I think it adds to the bleakness of the world. I also appreciate the inclusion of the US cut and the work print cut. Makes this feel very comprehensive. Moving along, we have The Deadly Spawn from Synapse. This movie had a similar situation where it's never gotten the nice home video restoration until now. There was a Blu-ray that went out of print a while ago, and the only times I've been able to watch it in the past have been on standard def DVD, so it's nice to just jump right into 4K Dolby Vision here. The picture quality is really good for what it is, provided you keep in mind with what we're dealing with here, which is a low, and I mean low budget monster movie made by ambitious amateurs and shot on 16mm. So the picture isn't going to look like super slicked up and mind-blowing. There's chunky grain and some soft focus here and there, but it's the best it can probably look. The Dolby Vision actually makes some things pop, like there's this guy wearing a red bathrobe at the beginning of the movie, and the red on the robe is really vibrant and looks great, really gives the picture some life. The monsters look great, and they always have. What I really appreciate about this release is the inclusion of both a 137:1 and 166:1 aspect ratios. The 166 will fill up your 16:9 TV better, but I actually preferred the 137 version as I believe that's how it was originally shot, and the 166 is just zoomed in. So the detail is clearer and sharper on the 137 version. Now, this set was fairly pricey from Synapse. There's a whole conversation to be had about titles only being available in these box sets with a bunch of swag that I know a lot of people can do without, and how a lot of us would prefer just a standard edition with just the movie on a disc for $25 to $30, and I definitely agree. I used to be a big special features guy, but I don't dive into that stuff as much anymore, and I too would prefer more affordable options to have these movies. But look, I don't run a boutique label. I don't know what the margins are for acquiring and restoring these movies and what business model shows that, like a $60 box set limited to 2,000 units or whatever has a greater return on investment than 5,000 units of a $30 standard edition. I just don't know. I'm lucky enough to be in a position where I can support these companies with these box sets and hope that allows them to fund releases of even more movies, but I totally get the argument and wish there was a more affordable and accessible middle ground. Which kind of brings us to my next pickup, Lucio Fulci's The Beyond from Grindhouse. Another pricey box set brimming with goodies and features that I might go through once. Again, fingers crossed for a more affordable standard edition down the line, but in the meantime, I'd rather have this than nothing at all. This has been available for a while now, and I didn't pull the trigger at the beginning, but now that you can just get it through Amazon, I decided to go for it, as I'd hate to wait too long and risk it going out of print or something. I can always sell my old Blu-ray to make up some of the cost. It is a handsome set in person though, and if Salute of the Jugger and The Deadly Spawn had the caveat of looking as good as they could with some limitations to the source, there's no compromise here. Shot on 35mm by master filmmakers, this looks gorgeous in 4K. The hype is real for this one, up there with the likes of the 4K release of the original Suspiria. Now, The Beyond doesn't have the primary color splashes of the Argento classic, but it is as phantasmagoric in its own way. Just amazing picture quality. If you're a fan, this is a must-buy if you don't have it already. Now we've come to probably the most anticipated title in my haul here, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly from Arrow. I pre-ordered all 3 movies in the Dollars trilogy directly from Arrow, and I got each one shipped overseas without hassle as they came out. I've seen online that a lot of people have their pre-orders for this canceled, including being canceled from Arrow themselves, which is just a frustrating situation, and I guess I just got lucky that I didn't have any problems with mine. If you're still looking for this, maybe hold out a while longer. Word is the trilogy will be getting a standard release down the line, and Arrow has been known to wait about a year or so between limited editions and standard editions, so hopefully these won't be scarce forever. As for the picture quality, I'll preface by saying that I've had not just this movie, but the whole Dollars trilogy on various home video formats over the years, going back to DVD. And it seems like these movies have been cursed to have some kind of caveat associated with their home video presentations, including the most recent Kino 4K discs. Now, I'm happy to report that, to my eyes, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and I'm just going to lump Fistful and a few dollars more in here as well, these look the best they've ever looked on home video with these Arrow releases. And not just looking better than ever, but to the point where I don't really think there's any caveats to be had here. There's no yellow Retrovata color timing. The colors look great. Fine detail is high. No edge enhancement or artificial sharpening that I noticed. The Dolby Vision makes the dark scenes even moodier and the bright exteriors even more sun-baked. Every time I've watched these movies in the past, there's always something in the back of my mind that's looking at some compromise to the picture that I wish wasn't there. But this is the first time that I've watched these and forgotten to be critical of the picture quality because there just wasn't much to be critical about, and I got pulled into the story and the characters. Not only that, but these all also have the original mono soundtracks included with the original sound effects. The gun and ricochet sound effects are so iconic in these already iconic movies that I'm baffled they were ever messed with and replaced at all. And I'm just happy that they're restored here and accompanied by the beautiful image quality. It really feels like finally watching these movies properly for the first time. Now, I'd like to move on to a couple of new Blu-ray releases. Sticking with Arrow, we've got Enemy Territory, kind of a low-budget 80s urban crime panic movie about a gang that terrorizes the occupants of a rundown apartment building. I'm excited to see this come to Blu-ray so that it can accompany the similarly themed movie Siege that got a Blu-ray release of its own from Severin a couple of years ago. I love these kinds of urban crime action movies about neighborhood folks going to war with street scum. They're very reminiscent of Westerns, actually. You got a small community of peaceful denizens harassed by bandits, and the law is nowhere to be found. I first heard about enemy territory and siege years ago when hunting down obscure action movies, and these were only available on terrible VHS copies for a long time, so it's great to have them in high def. These two kind of fit in a little pocket subgenre of movies like Death Wish 3 and Vigilante, and now that I think of it, I think one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, Escape from New York, might be at the peak of this genre. I mean, what's more evocative of urban decay than the entirety of Manhattan inhabited solely by criminals? And last but not least, from Warner Archive, Knights of the Round Table. I mentioned in a previous video how much I like the era of Golden Age Hollywood historical epics, and there's a bunch of Arthurian legend medieval movies that scratch a similar itch. This is a blind buy for me, but considering how much I enjoyed Ivanhoe and seeing that this also stars Robert Taylor, I'm feeling pretty safe in my purchase. I really appreciate the existence of the Warner Archive putting out stuff like this and so much more, and these movies in particular look absolutely gorgeous in high def. They're so colorful and vibrant, all the primary colors on the knights and their horses, the gowns of the fair ladies, the lush greenery of enchanted forests. Not to be an old man about it, but movies just don't look like this anymore. Something about the old film stocks and lenses used here really is magical, and it's such a nice contrast from the sleek digital photography of today. I hope it's only a matter of time before Warner upgrades King Richard and the Crusaders to Blu-ray. Alright, I think that's just about gonna wrap things up. I certainly feel better and like I've gotten caught up with all the new releases that I've been wanting to talk about. Hopefully you enjoyed this change in format. I'll be back soon with more movie stuff to talk about. Catch you then.